Intrusive questions can be harsh and triggering, especially when these questions are directed towards persons from LGBTQI+ community. A lack of knowledge and above all the heteronormative structure of society rather encourages us to ask questions that can be intruding on someone's private space, a question mark on their identity when they might be going through an identity crisis. As our world is becoming increasingly more inclusive, it is our responsibility to be sensitive and aware of the community that is already facing social, political, and cultural exclusion. In this Valid Questions video, let's take a deep dive into why the LGBTQI+ community faces a barrage of intrusive questions. Number 1. Lack of basic understanding. Many times, our lack of basic knowledge about the LGBTQI+ community and our shrouded inhibitions and stereotypes can lead to asking insensitive questions. Trigger warning. Question: are you sure you are gay, bi, trans? Totally hurtful and disrespectful. They know their gender identity and are very much sure about that. You do not have to question their identity. In case someone is going through a period of identity crisis in their formative years, your question can be triggering. Does your family know? Yes and maybe no. Coming out is not an easy thing to do when you are born and brought up in a conservative and heteronormative family structure in society. So refrain from asking this question. Question: are you not in love with me? Are you sure you're in love with me or not in love with me? Are you? This happens among friends when one confides in you their gender identity and you end up asking this really insensitive and intrusive question. Just because someone is attracted to the same gender as yours does not mean they like you. If you ask this question, you might lose a friend. Number 2, an inherently heteronormative society. Because we live in a heteronormative society and have been inculcated and conditioned to see and think in binary, especially when it comes to gender identity and sexual orientation, we are being insensitive, irresponsible, and unkind while talking to LGBTQI+ community. The fact that the world is becoming more and more inclusive day by day, and if we still do not want to get our heads out of the sand and look at gender through a non-heteronormative prism puts the onus of being insensitive and hostile on us and on the structure of the society. It is also the willful ignorance in the patriarchal setup that many of us are accustomed to and happily propagate that makes one take this binary and conservative approach. Number 3, lack of gender inclusive education. Our curricula needs to be more gender inclusive, and there needs to be basic awareness among students about the social and cultural disparities and oppressive approaches that the gender minorities go through. Young adults, when unaware of what lies beyond the heteronormative binaries, simply become insensitive adults. Hence, it is of utmost importance to have an LGBTQI+ inclusive curriculum where students are made aware and educated about the history, struggles, socioeconomic position of gender minorities. Another thing is conservative families. As we exist in a patriarchal, heteronormative, familial and social setup, when we grow up, we distance our children from a world beyond the conservative structure. Children learn from their parents, and when parents themselves are unaware.
Are you a Lebanese?
What?
It's not Lebanese, it is lesbian.
Are you a lesbian?
The children do end up becoming adults with an insensitive and unkind approach. We have built our families on the idea that man and woman make family, so anything outside of this shell is never talked about, and in fact it does not exist for them. In present day, the idea of family and familial structures is changing. It is the responsibility of parents to open up and talk about families and relationships that are not only based on man and woman binary. From a lack of basic understanding and a lack of gender inclusive education to conservative families, the list can go on, and you can maybe add your own reasons why we are desensitized towards the LGBTQI+ community. But the most important thing is to create a world beyond binaries, to see outside of heteronormative and patriarchal setups and systems that can make us more empathetic and sensitive towards gender minorities. All of this can be done by implementing and adopting a sensitive and inclusive approach to language, creating awareness, respecting boundaries, and stressing on an inclusive education and policies in the workplace, among others. Also, what according to you are the most desensitized and intrusive questions that you have heard? Let us know by commenting on this video.